Small cars have been improving rapidly, and that's why Subaru is redesigning the Impreza for 2024, but they're also getting rid of a hidden gem. If you enjoy fun, detailed car content without fluff, consider subscribing and hitting the bell for notifications. With the 5-speed manual, the Impreza is not a fun car in the traditional sense, but it does feel old in the right ways. And with the sport trim, it's also not left hanging on features. This is the spec that I would personally recommend. I like that everything is body colored, you have a little gloss black thrown throughout, and you have alloy wheels, though it is starting to show its age, not just with the design, but also with how you can only get halogen headlights if you're going with 3 pedals. If you want a manual Impreza, Subaru assumes all of your other senses are keen, as you do not have any sort of adaptive cruise, autonomous braking, lane assist. There's not even blind spot monitoring offered if you're in the United States. In fact, there's not any optional packages available if you go with the manual transmission.
How dare you mention that, soy boy? Learn to drive like me, the spamming commenter who definitely has close friends and healthy outlets for my frustrations.
Okay, yes, the Impreza Sport Manual is about giving you a pure, cheap Subi experience with a few nice touches. So the absence of those amenities shouldn't deter the fans, but that does hinder the broad appeal, something that was already less expansive than an airplane bathroom. But I am glad to see that the sport trim does have proximity unlock and lock. The interior has 2 big pros to it, and that is its ease of use and size. First, the visibility is immense for this small of a car. I mean, yeah, there is a present blind spot, but it is pretty minimal. The windows are large, the windshield especially, the belt line is low. It's good for a small car these days, and I can also jack up my seat even more if I want to go full granny mode, and I can do that because I have plenty of headroom, even at 6'3". I think a lot of this is also down to this not getting a sunroof, and that also contributes to a pretty low cost. And the rest of the car does feel low budget. If you don't mind, this one is available at Royal on the Eastside in Bloomington, Indiana, the friendly dealership that has let me test drive several cars over the years. They're knowledgeable and easy to work with. Check them out and tell them thanks for me. The cabin build quality is adequate, but there are some sizable panel gaps. You have a lot of cheap black plastics surrounding everything, but not an excessive amount of piano black, which means it doesn't look all smudged and gross quickly. There's at least some variation in materials with this kind of like fake carbon look that they've put throughout, and red stitching here with the sport trim. Subaru really spiced this up more than they needed to. I think this does look a lot better than the base. You still do have just manual climate controls. You can actually like feel the shutters moving. The infotainment system is also comparatively simple. You know, it's slow, it's dated, resolution is okay. Because this is the larger 8-inch screen, I definitely recommend going with it, but you're still just going to have wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, not wireless. But it's paired up to 6 speakers on the sport trim, which means you have average audio. For most people, they'll be fine. They just don't sound super good at high volumes. You also have a very simple yet dated looking gauge cluster with the red on black look and the little multi-function display. Oh, please don't come in here. There's a lot of big Hornets out today, okay? Tensions are high. There's also a separate info screen put on top of the dash here with the Sport. If you're buying this in 2023, you're not getting it for the tech. So I think the biggest appeal here is that it's straightforward. I am disappointed though by the highway comfort of the seats. There's no lumbar adjustment available, so that definitely gets old after a couple of hours. At least thigh support here is okay. The seats are heated. You do have nice soft elbow rests, a big meaty leather wrapped wheel, and plenty of room for my knees. And if you're friends with LeBron James, the back seat can actually easily accommodate someone that is over 6 foot, even if someone my size is sitting up front. Okay, it's probably not going to fit the king, but it's pretty good. You're not going to have rear console vents. At least the Impreza doubles down on space because you do have a large cargo area for the class. And when you fold the seats down, this thing is quite versatile. Despite being the Sport and rocking a 5-speed manual transmission, the outright fun factor and performance are far from the biggest things this has going for it. So you'll have a 2-liter naturally aspirated Boxer 4 under the hood, 152 horsepower and 145 pound-feet of torque, and this also has all-wheel drive, adding to weight and drivetrain loss, making this thing get to 60 in under 9 seconds optimistically, but with the 5-speed manual, you have to launch it like you're trying to end its bloodline. In order for me to get a decent time out of the old Crosstrek manual, I had to take the thing to like 5,000 RPMs and try to feather that clutch, and still low 9s. You can't really shift through these gears very fast. It doesn't like that. But when you're not pushing it as hard as it can, it is an enjoyable experience because of all the feedback and just how analog it feels. Here it does have a pretty short throw, surprisingly so actually, and you can definitely feel a lot of the engine through the gear lever. You can also feel the vibrations through the clutch pedal, and I think it's weighted well. It's not too light and disconnected like a lot of other economy car manual transmissions, and I think it's fairly easy to modulate if you're going up hills. It's just very hard to shift smooth and fast. And the ratios aren't too closely spaced, driving up the stress levels of the 2-liter when you want timely acceleration. That combined with the shifter's imprecise feel reminds you that this car is not a backroad conquering machine. Instead, I see this notchy old school transmission as a way to add life to your econobox commute. Now, if you're looking for passing power, this is not the car for that. It's got just enough guts to bring you up to highway speed without feeling like you really need to wring the thing out. But there's definitely a reason why the new 2024 Impreza can be had with the 2.5 liter. For higher elevations, or if you're carrying other people with you, it will not really inspire confidence. Now, on a nice back road, what I find myself appreciating is how quick the steering is. Feedback is very minimal, and I also think it's let down by body roll, especially as you kind of pick up in speed. It's still well controlled for a standard compact car. The body motion just conflicts with the racy theme it's trying to portray. While it's better than some other Subaru products, there is just a vagueness on center that gives it a slight floaty characteristic. Other cars like the Mazda 3 are more tight and predictable. Now, pushing this thing on a bad road, it's a soft car, but it remains pretty composed over these bumps, which I would partially contribute to its low center of gravity from that flat 4. It can react just as quick as other small hatches, but Subaru didn't need to spring it too stiff to make it do so. The brakes up front are slightly enlarged for the Sport and provide adequate bite. The Sport also gets a more firm suspension that still leans toward the forgiving side of things. Really, one of the best things about the Impreza is just how comfortable it is. It's compliant, it kind of just glides over everything. It's not the most poised product in the Subaru portfolio, but the benefit there is that when you're, comparing this to other small cars, if you live in a bad area, even here with less sidewall, it will do a good job at keeping the worst of the road away from your spine. The manual transmission also gets a very proven all-wheel drive system. It's Subaru's continuous setup that employs a viscous limited slip center differential, which means we have a 50-50 power split under most conditions, but if it senses wheel slip, it will send power to the axle that has more grip. This means it'll have phenomenal traction in any sort of condition. It also means that your gas mileage is not super great. That combined with the higher RPMs here for cruising, it results in this just getting pummeled by its automatic siblings. Bringing this thing up to highway speeds does require a little bit more throttle than one may like. And once you're there, 65 miles per hour, we're doing about 2,600 RPM, fairly high for something that, isn't a proper sport compact. Engine noise is vaguely present there at highway speeds, but the wind and road noise kind of drown it out. This is about as loud as you would expect a $25,000 small car to be. But where the Impreza beats many of its competitors is in dependability. Subaru has addressed the big issues of the past. Powertrain problems are highly rare, and there's less to go wrong with the stick. The most consistent qualms seem to be with interior quality, infotainment bugs, fragile windshields, and some reports of draining batteries. The strong points of the manual Impreza are not objective pros. It comes with a simple engine, a notchy shifter, and a communicative clutch, along with no active driving aids. It's a pure driving experience for a modern small car. And I think if they could throw the WRX's manual into the new 2.5 RS, it would be a great all-wheel drive alternative to the Civic Sport or SI sedan. As it sits, this is not the way I'd like the manual transmission Subaru hatchback to die. Due to low engine power and torque, lack of 6 ratios, and rev hang, this leaves a lot on the table. But I think the transmission feel itself, how transparent the clutch is, the short, notchy shifter, these are good things, and it does make just driving around town fun in my mind. It's just not as satisfying or rewarding when you actually begin to push the car. If you're looking for an engaging enthusiast daily, the Impreza Sport Manual will likely disappoint. You'd be better off buying a used WRX or increasing your budget for the new one. The stick Impreza is better suited for the person who wants a basic car with charisma. They don't plan on pushing its boundaries. Maybe they already have a second car for that. Maybe they're not addicted to speed. They crave the all-wheel drive, ride comfort, practicality, and simplicity of the Impreza, but they also want to feel like a part of the drive. If that sounds like you, go buy one while you can. The highly mechanical, nearly nostalgic feeling 5-speed manual may not be super precise or geared for performance in the slightest, but it does add another dimension to a car that is otherwise an appliance. I'm not the type to claim that Subaru is going downhill. In fact, I'd say they've been improving their cars lately in refinement, comfort, and reliability. However, I think they've been losing some of their unique character over the last several years. As the Impreza 5-speed hits the sunset, the lineup becomes a little less interesting once again. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then leave a like to help me crack into the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe and hit the bell for more. And follow me over on Patreon for an additional podcast where I'll go over any car questions you may have. See you in the next one.